So it'd be tragic if I failed to mention that if you have nothing selected and you press Q, you will have a different Q menu. For example, just a second ago you saw it when I have a selection. Whenever you have nothing selected, you have an option for adding a camera. So we'll take this moment to add a camera, and I'm going to click on the camera in the outliner just to select it, and we'll just bring it in and go over to its settings, set its focal length to maybe 120, pull it back a little bit, maybe move it down, GZZ in order to bring it in. And just like that, we now have a camera inserted in the scene. And the best part is if we press Shift Spacebar, it will begin showing us a render 360. Let's take a look at that back again. One of the things I realized after ending the video previously was that I didn't give the back a good material. So let's just control click blank material to give it a new material. And we didn't even have to control click it. I don't know why I'm impulsively holding control on this stuff, but let's just press tab, go into edit mode. And one of the things I forgot to do with this particular mesh is you want to delete the face that's facing out, because otherwise the mesh will not meet with itself correctly. So after deleting that, we'll just mirror that to the other side using symmetry. That way it's just one and done, and now this piece is merged good enough for us to actually add a mirror to it, or add a bevel to it. But really it's unnecessary for this piece, and the scale is unapplied. So for us to add a bevel to it effectively, we would probably need to go in and smart apply, and then from here we can actually add a bevel onto this mesh if we were so inclined to want it to bevel. When it comes to bevel, we have a bunch of wedges on this, so if you hold Alt and you scroll, you can actually lower the angle that you're searching for when it comes to beveling the edges. We also want to Alt click weighted normal to fix the shading, and if we go back to camera, we now see this is looking much better. So Shift Spacebar in order to play the timeline. And you may be thinking the timeline's looking a little fast, so let's deal with that. Let's set this to something like 2000 frames, which is normally what I'm going for whenever I'm on Twitter. However, we see that once we did that, it actually changed the position of our start camera. So I'm going to just get out of camera mode, look at it in top view, reposition my camera to look at it exactly where I want to start, and now we can let it play back. And this is a much better final result. So if we turn off all the additional viewport flutter that isn't needed, we can just look at just our simple cylinoid covered in rope. However, we can even take it a step further than that. In fact, having the cable droop down so much may have been unnecessary. So let's select this piece and this piece as well, all these little pieces, and let's just lift them up. That way it's no longer penetrating through what is going to be perceived as the ground. So we'll just bring all of this up, just getting it on the level. And so from here we can just select just this front piece and this back piece, press Q, O, T in order to use to shape. And with spacebar we can set this to plane. And I'm just going to hold control and scroll in order to set it to place it on the Z minus. And we can just scale this out. However, we see that we also probably want to move it down. And as far as the scale of this goes, it really doesn't matter. We just want it enough that we don't see it in the way of our camera. However, because of the angle of our camera, we're actually going to need to turn it into a proper backplane. So how do we want to make our backplane today? Well, I'm just going to bring this piece up. We'll bevel this piece out, even manually, doesn't matter. We'll bring this piece out, put a level of subdivision on it, maybe grab it all, hit it with a mark, and let's see how it looks whenever we set it smooth. So we could actually get in here and solve this area to get it to look even better, but now we actually have the area sitting on top of a surface. So let's expand our outliner, and I want to select this plane and make it a child of this empty, meaning that whenever it's rotating, we actually have the plane in the background the entire time, so we actually never lose our backdrop. So let's give this a blank material as well and look at our render this time. And so basically this is what we're looking at so far. So just a simple render of our cylinoid sitting on an endless plane. You know, the plane's really nothing to talk about. However, let's catch this at a frame where we don't have the emission showing. So with our cursor still placed in the center, we'll press Shift C to place our cursor, press 0 to go back in our camera. We could also press Alt V and B, which will let us roll through blank lights in our scene. So basically we're now adding a blank light configuration that's just being randomly generated, and usually I just scroll through until I find one that really just hits the spot, and then that's usually it for me. Of course, keep in mind you can press Tab and there's an expanded UI where you can go in and actually scroll over the dice to have the same behavior as scrolling. You could save presets, load them up, enable fog to be displayed, which we might do just have a little fun today. In fact, this one doesn't look that bad. We'll locate the one talking about rotation, and just shift scrolling will give us fine rotation where we can rotate this to highlight it exactly as we need. We want to just be coming off the side maybe, and then we can just click to apply. However, we can always press Alt VB to go back into blank light, and we can press Tab and go into fog and experiment with fog. So fog is always fun. Sometimes I will go in and just begin playing with the numbers, just seeing exactly how much fog I want present in my scene. So maybe something about there. And you can also randomize it to get different types of fog based on the procedural settings that we have set up for it. However, keep in mind that with everything you're able to adjust it, of course, behind the scenes. So maybe something like that really hits the spot. So let's press Shift left arrow to go all the way back, but with Alt VB, let's find a light system that is a little less dominating. So maybe something like that, and we'll just let it play back. In fact, for our rope, we see that the brown that is given is just a little bit too much. So let's bring it down even more. And just like that, we have now created our cylinoid. So now I will wrap this video. However, before wrapping, let's do one more thing. Let's select this piece, ever scroll. We'll locate the piece we need. Notice how we're able to even scroll through our cutters even in render mode. This is important to me. And we'll just bring that single piece back. Giving it also an emissive at the same time. However, this piece in the front isn't perfect. Now it is. That piece could also receive a weight at normal. Sometimes I'll just select a series of pieces, give them all weight at normals, just ensuring that their shading comes out proper. And just like that, we have now created our first cylinoid using HardOps and Boxcutter, just kind of breaking in the tools. Hopefully this has been an explanation in which you're able to learn something. However, there are a plethora of videos going over every topic in depth, so just check the links in the description.